You unlock this door with a key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of sound, a dimension of sight, a dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the webOS zone. Hey everybody, it's Derek with webOS Nation, and today I actually have with me one of the rare specimens of the webOS ecosystem. It is the HP TouchPad Go. This is HP's 7-inch webOS tablet. It was due to be released actually probably a couple of months ago until HP pulled the plug. This is one of just a handful of prototypes that still exist. The TouchPad Go actually carries over much of the design language of the original touchpad, so the most striking difference between the two tablets is the size. With a 7-inch screen, the Go is about half the size of the 9.7-inch touchpad. The original touchpad was designed with portrait orientation in mind, whereas the Go has been designed with landscape as the design intent, putting the center button and the front-facing camera along the longer sides of the screen. Speaking of the screen, the Go has a 1024 by 768 panel, giving it a 4:3 aspect ratio instead of the standard 16:10 used by most 7-inch tablets. It's good for both landscape and portrait, giving it a sort of paperback-sized feel instead of forcing landscape on the user. The Go is considerably lighter than the original touchpad, as it ought to be at half the size, but it's not any thinner. The back also has a nice matte finish soft touch coating that feels great in the hands, but it isn't as much of a fingerprint magnet as the original. The back is also removable, giving you access to a screwed-in battery pack and the SIM card slot. A rear camera is one of the few additions the touchpad has over the larger webOS tablets. It's a fixed focus 5-megapixel shooter that produced barely acceptable shots, which, while disappointing, is par for the course for tablets across the industry. The TouchPad Go includes a full gigabyte of RAM and a dual-core 1.5 GHz processor, matching the hardware from the bigger white touchpad. It's actually one of the more powerful 7-inch tablets out there, beating or matching every 7-inch tablet on the market in terms of raw horsepower. webOS 3.0.5 was loaded on the TouchPad Go we used for this review. It's a minor evolution of the currently available 3.0.4, bringing some bug fixes and minor aesthetic improvements. No modifications were made to webOS for the smaller screen, as it carries the same pixel dimensions as the larger touchpads. None were needed. Even though the touch targets were generally smaller on the screen, we found that webOS still works fine on the 7-inch panel. In some aspects, like typing, we found it to actually be an improvement. Every third-party app we tested on the Go worked as expected, even high-powered games. The 1024 by 768 screen was a conscious decision made with app compatibility in mind. Developers using webOS-specific Mojo and Enyo frameworks, as well as native code PDK, wouldn't have to make any changes to their apps to have them work on the Go. In essence, it's the same tablet as the other touchpads, just with smaller pixels. At 7 inches, the TouchPad Go is certainly more portable than its 10-inch predecessors. The Go name is quite apt, considering the built-in AT&T wireless support and GPS functionality. HP intended for this to be the on-the-go device, and we can certainly see ourselves getting one to throw in our bag when we go out on the road, leaving the bigger and heavier 10-inch touchpad at home. That is, we could see doing that if this TouchPad Go wasn't one of just a handful of prototypes that still exist. With HP out of the hardware business for webOS, it's not likely that the Go will ever see the light of day. In fact, it could be over a year before we see any HP webOS hardware. It's a shame, because it's quite nice, at least as far as hardware is concerned. That said, the Go still comes with the trade-offs that are part of webOS, namely the lack of developer support in comparison to iOS and Android. In an increasingly crowded tablet market, the TouchPad Go would have stood out, but for good and bad reasons. It wouldn't have been considered to be a bad tablet per se, but it also likely wouldn't have been considered to be great. But for now, you can't really consider it to be more than a glimpse at the future for webOS that could have been.